Oh my god, nobody panic, but this is actually happening. Behavior has just released the biggest developer update probably ever, with massive changes to both Killer and Survivor and to the just the base game in general. And it's pretty nuts. Now, I think it's mostly nuts in a good way. I mean, I think change is good, change is exciting, but we have to talk about some of this stuff. I don't really want to spend a ton of time talking about the progression system and all that. I do think it's really cool. Essentially, whenever you prestige a character, all other survivors or killers will automatically have that teachable perk. You don't even have to unlock it in the blood web; they just get it. So that makes it obviously very convenient to get perks. You don't have to sit there and grind the blood web over and over. You also don't have to reset your character every time you prestige. So when you prestige, you still have all your perks, and then as you prestige, you'll gain the better level. Better tier of the perk. They also added in some matchmaking incentives, which I think is cool, just to sort of reduce the queue times, whether it be for killer or survivor, depending on the time of day. So basically, if there's a side that needs more players, so that the other side can have faster queue times, they'll give you more blood points and incentives to play that role. So that's kind of cool. So hopefully that helps reduce queue times during certain parts of the day. So let's get to the gameplay here. We got gameplay updates, and the first thing on the list is generator speeds. Now, it talks about how killers, you have to rely on, gen defense perks and whatnot. So they've actually increased the time it takes to do a generator by 10 seconds, which might not seem like a lot, but that's pretty fair. I don't think adding more than that would be good. It might make Survivor very boring if you're sitting on a gen for too long. I mean, 90 seconds, I'll have to see how it feels in the PTB and stuff, but so they're increasing the time it takes to do a gen. And not only that, but they're also making it to where when you kick a generator, it's actually worth it. Because as you know right now as killer, when you kick a gen, it's pretty much useless unless, you have something to help you regress it, like Pop Goes the Weasel. But if you just kick it, it doesn't hardly do anything, and it regresses not very far. So they made it to where when you kick a gen, it will remove 2.5% of the progress of the generator. So that's cool. This makes it a lot riskier for survivors to tap the gen. You know how they'll run by and tap it for, to just save progress on it. But if they keep doing that and the killer kicks it, they're going to get that 2.5%. And they'll actually lose more progress than they're saving, which they mention here. So that might be good. So survivors have to actually be, a little more careful when they're tapping generators to save their progress, because they won't actually save it. They'll lose more. Now, this right here is the biggest thing that I did not see coming. These changes here are pretty wild, and I can't believe what I'm reading, and I don't even believe that all of this will make it out of the PTB. Maybe it will, but it's pretty wild. So first of all, I mean, it talks about how the kill rates have been pretty low, lower than they'd like. So first, they reduced the time it takes to break a pallet or a wall by 10%. So now you break walls and break pallets faster by default. Not only that, but they've reduced the cooldown of basic attacks by 10%. So now it's like, you got like a stack or two, save the best for last. I don't know the math there, but so you recover faster from your basic attacks. I wonder if that'll stack with save the best, or if they'll alter save the best for last as well. Because if you add that on to save the best, you might be having some. By the time you get 8 stacks, you'll be cruising through hits. Now this last one really surprised me, because I know a lot of people complain about Bloodlust. Even there's a lot of killer players who say Bloodlust doesn't need to be in the game, but also there are a lot of infinite windows, stuff like that, even in newer maps. So, some people do believe Bloodlust should exist, but the devs definitely think it should exist, and they think it should be even shorter. So now you gain Bloodlust even faster, 25 to 30 seconds rather than 30 to 45 seconds. So you get up to tier 3 Bloodlust in 35 seconds instead of 45 seconds. So you'll be cruising up, catching up to them a little bit faster to help you end your chases quicker. Now that's a lot of buffs for killer. Let's move on to survivor, where we're talking about camping and tunneling. The toxic behavior. I don't know who would dare even do such thing, the camp or tunnel. Who would do it? So like it talked about killers relying on gen defense perks to win, it also talks about how survivors rely on second chance perks like borrowed time, DS, and dead hard because of camping and tunneling. So they're trying to help survivors not need to rely on those perks. And so what they're doing, and we knew this was coming, I made a video about it because, well, they pretty much said that they were going to make this happen, but once a survivor gets unhooked, they receive a 5-second endurance effect, and not only that, but a 7% haste effect, so you're a little bit faster too. Now, I actually think this is a good change. I think it does definitely help survivors out, especially in solo queue and stuff like that. Maybe if they're getting farmed off a hook or things like that, it'll definitely make it more interesting. Basically, they want to give you enough time to make it to that pallet or window, just have a chance to do something after you're unhooked, so you don't just get unhooked, there's no BT, and you just go down right away. I mean, we all know that's a bad feeling. Even killer mains have to admit, like, that's not a great feeling when you don't even have a chance to try to get anywhere. So I mean, I think that's totally fair. And they also, they say that it's canceled, so if you get on a generator, if you try to heal yourself, do anything like that, then boom, the effect's gone, sort of like decisive strike. So I think it's totally fair. I think it's a welcome change. Even as somebody who does camp and tunnel, I think this is fair. I think it'll be really healthy and good for the survivor side. Then there's the meta perk changes. We're shifting the meta. This is where we got some real juicy stuff. So first of all, barbecue and chili. I see a lot of people already on Twitter not happy about the change to this, but all they're doing is taking away the blood point bonus, which they do make a good point here. By reducing the grind, they're already reducing, everything by 75%, so it's actually easier to get perks and stuff anyway. So now, basically, it'll still work the same way it does. You just use it for its actual purpose, which is to, see auras and stuff like that. So they're removing the blood point bonus, which I don't think is that big of a deal. But obviously, if you're somebody who's thirsty for blood points and you just love to grind and get as many blood points as possible per match, you might not like this change, and I totally get that, but Ruin is getting essentially cut in half. The regression is down to 50, 75, and 100 from 100, 150, and 200, so Ruin is really taking a hit. But like I said, earlier, they're increasing gen speed, they're making base kicking generators a little bit better, so maybe it'll even out. That we'll have to see. As well as Pop Goes the Weasel as well. So I guess they don't want this to stack, which I can understand. They don't want you to get 25% of total progress on top of that 2.5%. Like that's a lot of progress from just a kick. So they're making it to where it removes 20% of the current progress, not total. I don't think that's too bad. I think, that's still a decent amount of progress you're getting taken off, especially if the generators got a lot of progress. You'll be taking 20% off of that. So I think it'll still come in handy. It just won't be quite as crutch as it is now, which, we'll have to see how it's just crazy. I can't believe that they actually nerfed gen speed and buffed kicking generators. They actually did all this. I can't believe it. Corrupt Intervention seems to work the same way, except once you down a survivor, it completely deactivates. So say you're playing Bubba or somebody and you found a survivor within 10 seconds, 20 seconds of the match, and then you down them, then Corrupt Intervention is just gone. It's not going to last that full amount of time. I guess the point of the perk is to give you that early game pressure, and once you get it down, that counts as early game pressure, so the perk deactivates. So that, we'll have to see how that goes. If the goal is to help protect the gens while you get your first down, then the perk does serve that purpose still. They also nerfed Tinkerer, which I was a little bit surprised about, because I don't see Tinkerer that often. I didn't think that was like super meta. You see it sometimes on certain killers, but I didn't think it was that. But I guess it is. So they did change it to where it only works once per generator, and they did mention that since generator time has been increased, that killers will have more time to get there. They'll still get use out of the perk. I don't really use Tinkerer that often. It just depends on the killer and stuff like that. But I'm sure it'll still see use. It's just not going to be, able to be milked all game, I guess. And then we have, here it is, the No One Escapes Death nerf. We knew it was coming. We knew it was going to happen. And to be honest, it's really not even that bad. The No-Ed still works the same way. Once the last gen is, completed, it assigns itself to a dull totem. But what's different now is once that happens, if a survivor is within 4 meters of the totem, they will see the aura of the totem, so they'll be able to find it right away. And then as time goes by, I think it's 30 seconds, that space, it goes up to 24 meters. So then if you're within 24 meters of the totem, you can see its aura, essentially just giving survivors more of a chance to go look around, find the totem, and save their teammate. Now, I don't think this is a big deal. I think No-Ed gets cleansed anyway if survivors are near it. People know where to look for totems anyway. This just sort of helps give incentive to solo survivors who are like, I don't really want to go check the nooks and crannies for this totem and risk dying. But if they know that they'll be able to see the aura, it might give them, a little bit more of encouragement to go look for the totem and see if it's, near the killer and the hook, or, far away where they can actually make the risk and get the save. So the perk still works the same. You still get the speed boost, you still get the insta downs. It just gives survivors a little bit of more of a chance to cleanse the totem. Because I think if you're in a survive with friends, you probably are gonna be able to cleanse the totem anyway because of the communication. And so this just really helps solo teams get out of these endgame situations, which I don't think is a bad thing. Now, Pain Resonance, I guess they thought was a little bit too overpowered because it regressed the gen and gave you a lot of information. So now it still regresses the gen, but it doesn't create the survivor to scream and create that sound notification, so you don't exactly know what gen it was. I think, yeah, it's just limiting the informational aspect and more so focusing on the regressional aspect. Now, as far as the perks go, this might be the biggest one. This might be the money load. Dead Hard is nerfed. You no longer can use it for distance. It works kind of entirely different now. So now you press the action button and it gives you 1 second of endurance. So like, you know, like a borrowed time basically for 1 second. And the devs did say on Twitter that there'll be an animation for that, so you won't have to like guess when they're dead harding. But they won't be able to dead hard for distance, as just to dodge hits. And if the survivors do time it right, they'll be able to tank a hit and get a speed boost. But yeah, survivors are not going to be able to play nearly as greedy. I don't know if anybody's even going to use dead hard now. It might be fun to throw in for some builds, but 1 second endurance really isn't that great. This is really the dead hard nerf everybody's been asking for. I don't think we'll be seeing 3 to 4 dead hards every single match 24/7 now. I don't think that's going to happen, and that's fine by me. Now, DS is getting nerfed again, and I'm honestly surprised that it's getting nerfed again. I guess it is run a lot of the time, and they even say they think it's healthy, but they are making it to where it's not as useful in the end game. So once the exit gates are powered, it deactivates, and in addition, the stun has been reduced from 5 seconds to 3 seconds. So they're making it to where DS is not a guaranteed escape for you anymore in the end game, which is honestly very strong. I mean, that's where DS really shined, is, you know, in that end game. It's because, you know, if you down a survivor, they have DS Unbreakable, there's pretty much nothing you can do, especially if you're next to an exit gate. There's just nothing you can do. They get out for free unless they miss the skill check. So them taking that away is pretty huge. I think that means you can just tunnel now at the end of the game, obviously, but they do have the borrowed time buff, or the base kit borrowed time, so you still can't just tunnel right off hook. You still have to, you know, this is just crazy. It's crazy. That 2 second reduction for the stun is honestly going to be pretty good too. There might not be as many people running DS now, especially with the addition to base kit borrowed time. There might not be as much of a need for DS. Now, it does look like with the new borrowed time, they're reducing it's got the same effect, but they're reducing the time, but it'll actually give you more. So I think borrowed time right now is 12 seconds, right? So if you use borrowed time now, it adds 10 seconds to that. Yeah, it extends the duration by, so that means you'll get a 15-second endurance. That's honestly pretty strong. People might still be using this, unless I'm reading that wrong, but let me know in the comments if I'm reading that wrong. But does that mean that you get the 5 seconds plus the 10? And it also says that it increases the speed bonus duration by 10 seconds for any survivor you unhook. So I guess that means that when you unhook them, they get 10 extra seconds of the haste as well. So yeah, so that means they'll get that 7% haste for that extra 10 seconds. So 15 seconds of endurance and 15 seconds of that haste. The Iron Will buff, you're no longer 100% silent, which will be great for spirit players. And when you're exhausted, it doesn't work. That's interesting. So it doesn't cause the exhausted status effect, but if you use an exhaustion perk and you are exhausted, Iron Will just doesn't work. That's a pretty big hit to Iron Will, to be honest with you. And then self-care goes from 50% to 35%. So self-care is getting quite a hit as well. This one makes me sad. Spine Chill makes me sad. I understand for stealth killers though, and it'll be really good for Scratch Mirror Myers, because now it only lights up when you're in clear line of sight. So so that means if you're behind a wall, I think that it won't light up, right? Is that how that works? So Scratch Mirror Myers won't set off Spine Chill now, or Ghostface or whatever, unless they are, you know, but until they come around the wall or area, whatever. So that still gonna be getting jump scared running Spine Gel, looks like. And they also took away the vault bonus. They also buffed a bunch of underused perks for killers and survivors. I'm not going to go over every single one, but overcharge, they made it to where it regresses from 100% to 400% over the course of 30 seconds. So you might really get a lot of regression out of overcharge if they don't touch it. But if they do touch it, they get that skill check. So overcharge might be a really good tool for regression as well now. And Lethal Pursuer now adds 2 seconds to your aura, other aura reading perks. So like barbecue, you'll get that extra 2 seconds to see where people are, or floods of rage, any aura reading, you get an extra 2 seconds. So this has another effect now, which is kind of cool, because once you use it at the beginning of the match, then you just don't have any use for it. Now it has a use throughout the match, which is nice. They increased Thanatophobia's repair penalty. Legions are going to be much more oppressive now. Monster's Shrine is turned into a Scourge Hook now, which is very interesting. So now it's no longer the basement. So I guess they're discouraging the basement Bubba, basement Trapper builds using this. So now they'll die faster on Scourge Hooks, but only if you're not within 24 meters. So you can't just sit there and camp them. That makes perfect sense. So yeah, Monster Shrine is now Scourge Hook, and it might be useful if you use other Scourge Hooks with it. Botany Knowledge got a speed buff. Lucky Break made it to where when you heal survivors, you sort of get the perk back. For every second healing a survivor, you get duration back towards Lucky Break, so that once it runs out, it's not completely gone. That's pretty cool. So that'll be probably seeing more use. Soul Survivor makes it to where you, when you're the last survivor alive, you can do generators 75% faster. Just kind of neat, I guess. It gives, if there's one gen left into the last survivor, you actually can try to do a gen if you want to, instead of finding the hatch. You might have a chance, depending on, maybe a gen's already 75%. You can just get on it and blast it out. It'd be kind of fun to play around with. Overzealous got a repair speed buff by 2%, and We're Gonna Live Forever got the blood point bonus taken away, just like barbecue. God, that's insane. It's just insane. I never would have imagined anything like this. I mean, this is, like I said, the biggest update since I've played the game, since I've started playing this game. Do keep in mind though that all this has to be tested in the PTB and stuff like that before it'll even reach the live server. So who knows what of this will be tweaked, what of this will actually make it. I'm excited for a shift to the meta, for something new. It's always fun to spice things up, and maybe it'll be good, maybe it'll be bad. I think it'll be mostly good. This seems good, and maybe it's just the fact that it's so new and exciting that I'm so excited for it. But I think a lot of this stuff is positive, and I think obviously we'll have to test it out. But let me know what you guys think. What's your favorite change in here? What's your least favorite change? I already know your favorite change. It's Dead Hard being nerfed. That's all of our favorite change, I think. And Noed still lives, baby. That's right. We're not going anywhere, baby, so suck it.